Okay, maybe we should have worried a little. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainly Movies. Today I'm going to be talking about the 2022 psychological thriller, Don't Worry Darling. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. All my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all of that extra content. Don't Worry Darling stars Florence Pugh, Harry Styles, and Chris Pine, and was directed by Olivia Wilde. It tells the story of Alice, a suburban housewife living in an isolated company town who begins to suspect that things are not as they seem. Films are about crafting reality in fiction. Sets are designed, dialogue's written, the actors play parts. There's a line between reality and movie fiction. Sometimes the line is readily apparent, while other times the boundary is a bit more hazy. This can be an intentional choice, but sometimes it happens as a result of unintentional bleed over. Movie production is a challenging thing, and sometimes those on-set challenges and behind-the-scenes drama can have an impact on the final product, or at least the general perception of the final product. The widely reported behind-the-scenes issues, and non-issues, have largely overshadowed this film's coverage, but it deserves to be viewed separate from that inane celebrity drama. Olivia Wilde's sophomore directorial outing is a significant shift from her first film. Gone is the teen comedy of Booksmart, instead replaced by mystery and psychological thrills. I'm a big fan of the latter, so I've been looking forward to this film since it was first announced. The premise was incredibly intriguing, and to be honest, it's easily the film's strongest aspect. We're introduced to life in the town of Victory through Alice's eyes. Everything has a polished, picture-perfect sheen to it at first glance, but that very same perfection soon becomes unsettling. We know that there's something off about this place and this situation, and the film uses that to its advantage. It takes a lot of time setting up this mystery and getting the gears of explanation possibilities turning in our heads. Along with the mysterious setup, Don't Worry Darling does a surprisingly good job of establishing its ominous tone. It never strays too far towards the horror side of the spectrum, which is something that it may have actually benefited from, but it does frequently fall into solidly unsettling territory. The withheld information, the symmetry, the surface level perfection superficiality, it all screams that we should, in fact, be worrying. The polished cinematography full of close-ups and uncomfortably long shots add to this, as does the musical contrast at play. On the soundtrack side, the film is bursting at the seams with pop hits of the 50s and 60s, but the score couldn't be any more different, consisting of pulsing vibrations and extremely unnerving, gaspy, panting vocals that would be right at home in an A24 folk horror film. The numerous hallucination dream sequences add to the unsettling artsy feel, though they do become a bit excessive, feeling like unnecessary runtime padding rather than anything structurally or thematically relevant to the film. The movie does touch on several admirable themes, and elicited some cheers from one particularly vocal woman at my screening, but it's a movie whose ideas and intentions exceeded its story execution. There are so many good and interesting ideas here, and a solid setup, but it fizzled into sloppiness. The third act reveal will likely irritate many people. I actually didn't mind the idea of it, I just wished it was more coherent and in line with all the setup we were given during the rest of the movie. Without getting into spoilers, there were so many things that happen, and so many things that are repeatedly focused on that just end up being random and left unexplained. Or, worse in my opinion, as plot devices, inserted for the sole benefit of the audience and getting the movie to the next stage, rather than any sort of coherency or story logic. Don't Worry Darling is a frustrating film, but not for the reason it wants you to be frustrated. It's a psychological story with big thematic aspirations, and a high-concept premise that it's never able to reach the peak of. Pugh and Pine drive the performance side of things, and it's a movie with a lot of good ideas, and even more potential, but it never quite comes together. Maybe the big reveal's direction is to blame, but even with that story decision, I think this could have worked had the ending A, not been so rushed, and B, actually incorporated all the pieces of the extensive setup to the mystery into the revealed solution. Don't Worry Darling had most of the pieces, but it's a script that could have used a few more revisions and some fine-tuning. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. Pro number one is the premise. The idea of a community of eerie housewives isn't exactly the most original idea, and this film certainly draws upon quite a few other movies, but the prospect of a new take on this basic idea was an intriguing one. With a psychological thriller, there are a lot of possible ways to go, and part of the fun of a story like this is watching the mystery setup and looking for clues to try to figure out what's going on. This one had the potential and the tone, it just couldn't follow through on the execution. The second pro is the score. It is not at all what you'd expect from this type of film, and feels a little jarring at first, but ends up really working. The breathy panting and gasping of the vocals give it a creepy organic feel that seems at odds with the artificiality of Victory's symmetrical perfection. But that out-of-place quality is exactly what makes it work. Along with the story, it tells us that something isn't right here, and that maybe the 50s and 60s pop of the soundtrack is what's really the outlier. On the con side, the biggest issue is the script. Now, I want to be clear, I'm not talking about the whole script here. I'm not even really picking on the film's reveal. It's not bad in theory, it just doesn't feel like it fits with the rest of the movie. Maybe this is partly me being disappointed that my idea of what was going on wasn't the actual case, but I do think there were better possibilities than the one the film ultimately went with. Or at least possibilities that actually utilized all the events and clues given to us throughout the movie. Con number two is the hallucination sequences. Hallucinations, dreams, visions, whatever you want to call them, the film was loaded with them. Some of these sequences work and add to the paranoia and uncertainty of the situation, but most just felt unnecessary. They looked cool, but dragged the runtime out without really contributing anything to the story that we couldn't already figure out contextually. It just felt like it was being artsy for the sake of it. And when you have a film that jams a half a movie's ideas into the final 10 minutes, that artsy time probably could have been put to better use. Before I give you my rating recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying Don't Worry Darling, or any of the films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you use them, if you're in the market for any of these movies. I'm gonna give Don't Worry Darling 3 out of 5 paws. This is a hard one for me, and I'm torn on my rating. On one hand, I really liked the premise and potential and the overarching themes, but on the other hand, this was an exceptionally frustrating experience that didn't capitalize on its potential, so I've gotta go on the enjoyable side of average. I would recommend Don't Worry Darling to people who enjoy psychological thrillers and mysteries. It's the type of movie that'll have you continually formulating ideas about what's really going on. So if you like an active mystery watch, you'll probably enjoy this experience. The actual solution and reveal may frustrate you, so the payoff might be underwhelming, but the process is good. If you liked Don't Worry Darling, I would recommend The Stepford Wives. Either version would work, but considering this is more of a thriller than a comedy, I'd lean towards the 1975 original. There are some major plot differences, but the premise and themes are very similar. If you enjoyed Florence Pugh's performance and want to see her in another psychological thriller/horror, you might want to watch Midsummer. Once again, she finds herself in an isolated community where all is not as it seems. If you want another recent psychological thriller, you should check out Last Night in Soho. This too features a mysterious 60s component and quite a few reflection and glass shots. And I'm also going to suggest a TV show here too, WandaVision. It features a picturesque 50s and 60s housewife element with a broader and darker mystery at its core. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen Don't Worry Darling? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what's your favorite movie about an isolated community? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information out of this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe while you're at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.